Ronin Man, today I'm going to talk about basically how to think. One of the things about being a guy who is in control of his life is you have to be able to see through bullshit as quickly as possible. Nobody's perfect, obviously. Nobody knows every subject, and that's partly why you need a lot of good friends. And a lot of the information I'm going to talk about today was from a very good friend of mine who is an expert on this topic. So this might be very interesting for you, and let's talk about it. Okay, so there was if you look any news channel right now, the hottest story right now is the Cambridge Analytica story. And so the basic, in a nutshell, there's this guy here. Obviously, he's an SJW. They call him a whistleblower. He's just a low-level dude who worked at Cambridge Analytica. And he's talking about what they used to do at the company. So it wasn't really that big a deal. A lot of the stuff that they were doing at Cambridge was stuff that any marketing company will do. Any affiliate, if you're selling any products online, I sell products online, so I know a lot about this. And a lot of this stuff is quite familiar for me. And so for people that don't know anything about sales, they don't know anything about online stuff, this might seem pretty big deal. It might seem like, oh my gosh, my mind is being manipulated. But I want to go in here and just kind of lay it down here. So if you watch this video here, Cambridge Analytica, the undercover secret of Trump's campaign, blah, 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 it's a worthwhile watch. And what it is they have these guys, Alexander Nix and another guy from Cambridge Analytica, and they're doing a sales pitch to this dude who is from Sri Lanka. And his thing is, he said he wants to influence the election in his country. And so what these guys are doing is basically like a full, it's like a snake oil salesman type of guys. So they're claiming that they can do all this kind of stuff. And when they have 3 meetings with this guy, right? So when it starts out, they're just making standard claims that they're going to use data on Facebook to, help him win the election, right? But the guy doesn't, basically the guy doesn't buy, right? He hasn't purchased yet. So they have 2 other meetings, and then they get deeper and deeper, and they start bullshitting more and more about how they have these spies and MI5 and MI6, and people can, essentially hinting that they can do anything, right? People can be disappeared, And I've noticed a lot of this kind of talk recently, ever since The Sopranos was a popular TV show. I noticed that people started saying the word cocksucker everywhere. That was Tony Soprano said that word. And then all of a sudden my friends would start saying that word, and I thought, wait a second, nobody said this word before. This was not a common word. That's why Tony said it, because it was a powerful word. Nobody said it, So, they would say other words, but not that one. And so the media and mafia and kind of our natural desire for intrigue and excitement all feeds into this story. So it's actually a great story. So so basically they're trying to pitch this dude from Sri Lanka who's an undercover guy. He's undercover, works for I don't know if he works for Channel 4 News or some news channel. And he's basically, it might have been Channel 4 News, looks like it was, that made the documentary, but the undercover video. But essentially they're just bullshitting to the guy, right? So this guy's like some hick from like Sri Lanka, and they're basically, they're bragging that they influenced all these elections all over the world. And they can do anything you need. If you need like Ukrainian girls to show up and make him look bad, they can do it. They did it. And they're not saying directly who it was or what, but they're just basically bullshitting. Anybody who's halfway intelligent who watches that video, you're going to realize that these guys are just trying to sell. They're just trying to sell. They're just making promises. This is one thing. If you're in sales, one of the biggest temptations you have is to lie. It's so tempting. Trust me. Oh, fuck, so tempting. I remember when I was in college and I was selling, and then we would sell, and then there was another technical guy who had to implement what we sold. And it was so tempting. And I remember I was like 19, and the guy would come up to me and say, what are you telling the guy? He can do this, we can do that, we can't do that, And I'd be like, I felt so much pressure, Basically, I was trying to sell, right? I was 19, I was trying to sell. And I would start to overpromise, right? So I'd start to exaggerate, And I learned my lesson, actually. That was a very good lesson, actually, for me. But a lot of people always do that. Salespeople get caught in lies all the time. If you're in sales or you manage salesmen, you're going to recognize the way these guys are talking pretty quickly. Very common for sales guys to talk like this. especially in a field like this. So basically, they're bullshitting. These are British guys. They got the British accent. If you any kind of financial product, any call centers, any boiler rooms, they all have British guys bullshitting Americans. It's a very easy thing to do. Any British guy can just bullshit Americans like so easy. It's just you come over and you're like an expert, the Queen's English and everything, right? Americans believe this shit like nothing, right? So, okay, so basically, let me give you a date. Let me give you a rundown of what exactly happened in this situation because it's quite interesting. Okay, so what they did was what Cambridge Analytica did. So basically, what I'm saying is, and I think this is going to come out in the future, is that they were full of shit about basically knocking people off is what they're hinting at, and this setting up sex scandals. None of this stuff was going on. What they were selling was a data service, right? The thing is, the data service wasn't even that exciting, and this whole thing is a bunch of bullshit. It's a complete, when you analyze it all down to the micro level, it's complete crap. So that's what I want to do for you here. If you're not a tech guy, you're not in this field, you probably don't know much about it. Let me just break it down. Okay, so what they were doing is something called data scraping and retargeting. Okay, now retargeting was the one thing they did that was good. Everything else was a joke, but actually they did a great job of retargeting. So let me just quickly add that in, that one of the things that Trump did very well in his election was he had lists of voters from the RNC, the Republican National Convention. And they have lists of voters and names and phone numbers, right? Well, you can import those into Facebook ads, and then you can target those people if Facebook can find them. So if they don't have a Facebook profile, you can't find them. Or if they used another phone number before, and this is a new phone number, and then sometimes they can't find them. But yeah, I've imported lists to Facebook before, and it's pretty accurate. If you have a list of people's phone numbers and names, it's pretty accurate. Facebook will find them most of the time. And then what you can do is you can target them, okay? So it's not this kind of fucking hocus pocus. They're making it look like it's some kind of superpower. Okay, let me just tell you what you do. So you get a list, okay? So you can buy a list, or you get a list, or you have a list. Phone numbers, names, emails, whatever. Then you import that into your Facebook ad. When you open up the Facebook, there's like a business app most people have when they're using Facebook ads. You import it in there, and then Facebook goes through and sees how many of those guys are actually findable, makes a list, okay? Then what can you do with that list? Okay, you can't just like steal their information. You can't just like take the birth dates and everything, right? But what you can do is you can take that list and you can do something with it, right? You can run ads that will show up in their feed or on their sidebar, and then they have to click on. But if they don't click on them, then you just wasted your money. So what they did was they got an app. It's called My Personality app, and a lot of people like to take personality tests. I always thought that was kind of stupid. I'd like to hear you. Did you fill out that My Personality app? It was pretty popular. There was a lot of them too. But either way, you might not have even known the real name of it. But any of those personality apps, what they're doing is their business model, just to kind of give you that, is they don't charge you. Okay, obviously, right? You do it for free. So they sell your data. That's how they make money. So a lot of people on my Facebook right now are just going crazy that, these apps are like stealing your data. And that is totally horseshit. When the reason why I never filled out a personality survey was because I read the fine print. I actually read it myself. I looked at it and said that Facebook can take all my data and my friends' data. So I said, no way, I'm not going to do that. So that's why I very rarely click on apps. And actually apps, this whole thing is such bullshit because apps are getting less popular anyway. Apps were I think it was about 2011 apps came out. They were hot for a while, but apps are getting less and less popular. And Facebook kind of screwed up with apps because Facebook is actually very good with your data, but the app companies are not so good. And when you made an app, you got access to the Facebook data. So I think they're going to crack down on that. But either way, so what they do is they would run an ad, okay, saying whatever, you want to check your personality and maybe some interesting picture. You would click on it. Then you would get the survey and you would fill it out. And of course, they would have the terms of service. You would see them. Contrary to popular belief, they weren't that difficult to read. I'm not like such a disciplined guy that I read every fucking thing that I get, but they're pretty easy to read. It says, we have access to all your Facebook data and your friends. I saw that. I'm like, no way. I'm not going to click on that, So I didn't. Probably in the beginning of Facebook, I did. Probably back like 2007 or something, I probably did. But I stopped doing that years ago because I was like, oh, no way, this is not good, right? I figured it out, right? So a lot of people are stupid. Basically, the stupid people are the ones that are really going crazy right now because they don't read the fine print. They don't realize what a business is. They don't understand business model. They don't understand that people need to pay employees. It costs money to run a business. They think when there's something free, it's free. It's like, oh, it's free. There's no cost. I'm going to do this thing. It's a service. They think it's like socialism. It's a service. Some company's doing a service for me, entertaining me for free. But that's not how it is. Actually, they're making money, right? But the thing is business is tough, okay? They're not making that much money. That's the problem. Everybody's duking it out to make money in this world. It's not easy. Okay, so here's how hard it was for Cambridge. And also, it wasn't that effective. But what they did was they got the list. Okay, they got the data from the My Personality app, and then they would take the data and they would do psychographic profiles. So basically they would come up with a profile for you, and then they had to get you to do something. So now I know, okay, so for example, if I was running an ad, I would get, import some data, I would make them do something, and then I would get more data. Now I have understand the client more. Then I would create some content for them. That's what they did. So, maybe write an article about something, right? And they would say that, it was something that they think you're going to like. Okay, so now they know a lot about you. Now they're going to write something that they think that you might like. Okay. Now, what blows this whole thing to pieces, it just doesn't make any sense at all, is that this whole tempest in a teapot right now that's going on online the theory is that this helped Trump win the election. But the thing is, the key part of that step is that you have to write content that matches what the psychographic profile of the user prefers. So 93% of Facebook, the last I read, it's very high. I don't know if this was exactly right, but basically it's way high, and anybody who has a brain remembers back that most of the articles about Trump were negative. Okay, on Facebook. If you read, it was like almost all negative. It was I read 89% from somebody and like 90 something percent, 93 I think it was, which I believed. Either way, it's very high. So this doesn't even make sense because if Trump was using this data to win the election, okay, then all the articles would have been positive about Trump, or more than 50%, right? It only makes sense, right? So that's kind of blown to pieces. And this is not a political podcast. Actually, back years ago, Barack Obama did a very good job with social media, and that's why he got elected. He was good with social media. He was ahead of his time, and Trump's team was ahead of their time. Jared Kushner, all these guys were pretty sharp. Now, I don't want to exaggerate this because they actually weren't that sharp, because everything that they did, Alexander Nix did, was not that fucking sharp. It wasn't like insane. It wasn't cutting edge. Okay, if affiliate marketers understand everything that these guys are talking about, they do them already. Plus, they do a million other things. And if you watch this documentary, which I recommend, that we're looking at right here, he talks about one of the things the guy's name, I forgot the guy's name. It's not Alexander, it's the other guy, the bald guy. And he's saying that we look at people's deepest fears that they can't even verbalize, and then we describe them. And that's how we basically control you. Okay, now I've studied marketing. I do marketing. I sell my own products online. I understand. I write copy. I study copy all the time. I read copywriting books. I'm reading like 2 right now. I mean, I'm always reading copywriting books. I think it's very important to understand how to sell. Sales is very important for anybody who wants to be unblackmailable. Sales is one of these skills that SJWs run from because they just are afraid of it. Because you can be judged by numbers. Sales is like scary as fuck for these guys. Oh my God, I'm going to be judged. Better to get a job where you can't be judged. But I like to get a job where you actually make money and you can be judged. Because that way you you amp it up. Okay, so he said that you target the person's deepest fears and you create something you basically to make them think you really understand them. Okay, so that's what he's saying, how you influence people's minds. So let me give you an idea of what that really means in real life and why it's not that scary. Okay, so one of my friends from high school has a lot of money. Okay, he's a trust fund baby. Okay, and he's a survivalist. Okay, so one of my friends was writing copy, which is basically advertising, for the survivalist niche. So they buy like, water tanks, guns, special paint for their cars. They do all kinds of stuff like to protect themselves. They even have plants that are special, like almost like a barrier plants, like cactus and stuff. Certain types of cactus, right? And they plant them around their house and they build like basements and things. They spend a lot of money so they can be self-sufficient. Okay, these are the survivalist niche. So I'm just giving you an example of what this means to write someone's deepest fears and biggest dreams. Okay, so what the very smartest guy, John Carlton, one of the best copywriters out there, he figured out that the survivalist guy, his ultimate fantasy, okay, he thinks the world's going to end, okay, so his ultimate fantasy is he's built, he has all the food in his house, he has water, extra water, he's got guns, he's got bulletproof windows and all that, and so his fantasy, okay, which is what you sell to if you want to make money, his fantasy is that the world goes crazy, okay, so essentially there's a hack or something, and all the electric grid goes down, and everything goes into chaos, right? But he's inside his house. He's got his guns. He's got his food. He's got his electric generator. He's warm. He's comfortable, and he's sitting there laughing. Okay, so his neighbors, who he's always warned about this coming apocalypse, are running around like chickens with their heads cut off, scared to death. Banging on his window, asking for food or water or something, some help or some protection. And then he's sitting there with his gun, big smile on his face, got a big piece of meat or something in his hand. He's eating off the bone, and he's totally comfortable in his house. And he looks at the guy and then he basically flips him off like, fuck you. I told you that this was going to happen, and you didn't listen. And so, fuck you. Yeah, I'm not helping you. And then you can die. That is the fantasy of a survivalist. Okay? Now, John Carlton made that up. It's probably not perfect, but it's a pretty good example of his deepest fears and his greatest hopes, his dreams. Okay? It's like his fantasies, essentially. So if you want to write copy, advertising, article, you want to write something that's attractive to survivalists, you keep that in mind because you understand what his fantasy is. That's his fantasy. Sitting there, he's absolutely right. He told you, but you didn't listen, and so fuck you. That's his fantasy. And so this is what we're talking about, deep human stuff here. And the SJWs and the typical crowd that was watching this video, they were shocked that anybody would, try to write something about somebody's fears or fantasies. But that's how you sell. Sales is based on emotion. So whether you're selling anything, whether you're selling a girl to take off her top, you're selling your kid not to cross the street with the traffic, you're selling your wife to pick up some chicken for you on the way home, or you're selling a product, you're trying to influence their behavior. Okay, that's what you're doing with sales, and or you're trying to get them to vote, right? You're trying to influence their vote, but the thing is that people don't understand is if you actually do sales, if you actually do something in your life, in real life, you're going to realize that it's not that easy. So everybody from the outside is always going to say, oh, these data guys with these ads, they control us. Everybody controls us. We have no say in this world. We're just robots. We need to kill everybody at the top. That's basically it's not true. It's fucking hard to do it. It's hard to sell, man. It's really, really hard. That's why everybody avoids sales. It's super, super hard. Okay. So this whole I'm a victim mentality, I don't like it. I just don't like it. It's such bullshit. This guy's face down here, I just can't stand this guy's face. This SJW who supposedly is the mastermind. And the guys here that make the sales pitch, the Cambridge Analytica guys, I like them better. They're more likable actually, even though they're full of shit. They're just totally full of shit, using their British accent, and they're going to convince you they can do anything. So they're just trying to get this guy's money from Sri Lanka, and they're going to lie or whatever they got to do to get it. Now the problem is all these people in the media, they believe all this is true. The boasts that these guys make in their sales pitch, okay, that they can influence elections, basically get people killed, get people arrested. All this is just bluster. It's just bullshit. Okay. But they believe it. And so let's get, again, what really happened. Okay. So what really happened was very simple. So fucking simple. It's like stupid simple. There was an app. There was a warning about data. People ignored the warning. They filled it out. That data went to the company. They took that data. They wrote news articles, and they ran ads so that people would click on the news articles so that it would either bolster their opinion or change their opinion, whatever. They're trying to get them to vote, to believe that whoever they were doing the article for, which, don't kid yourself, everybody runs ads now. Everybody tries to target people's deepest fears and biggest dreams. Everybody runs Facebook ads, okay? So it wasn't Donald Trump. It was every single politician. And also in Brexit, everything's online, you guys. It's not like, the newspaper does any good anymore. This is like normal. This is like standard. Anytime someone's selling you a product now, it's Amazon, right? They're doing this to you. And the thing is that it's not that scary. There was one thing they did, it was a little bit, I thought was kind of interesting, is they paid people $2 to $5 on MTurk, Mechanical Turk. I don't know if you know it. It's a place that you can get, it's like a freelancers on there. You can get freelancers to do stuff for you. It's on Amazon. If you search it, Mechanical Turk, Amazon, you can come up with it. And you can pay people in Bangladesh a small amount of money to do some work for you, whatever, write an article or do something. So they paid them to take the personality quiz and also to give their login to their Facebook page. So people were getting paid to do this. This wasn't stealing. They were paying people $2 to $5 to log into their Facebook page. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were getting paid, right? And then they matched the quiz results with the interests and likes of their Facebook profile once they were logged in. And they built a micro-targeted personality-based, it's basically based on the ad campaign. So they figured out who you were, right? Whoever they paid. And then they ran ads to these guys. Very simple stuff, very standard stuff. If you really want to understand how this stuff works, you probably want to read this book, Chaos Monkeys by Antonio Martinez. This book lays it out, very worthwhile book, and also a fun read. But this will tell you, the journalists that are writing about this is one of the problems. I don't know if journalists are just completely stupid these days, or if they just don't know about tech. And there's like so much of a need to write about tech these days because everything's related to tech now, even politics, right? You need to understand tech to do well in this world, right? I don't think that journalists really understand what they're writing about anymore because so much is related to technology. When they hear this, they think conspiracy. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, this is like my mind's being controlled. Mental midgets are always worried about getting controlled, but intelligent people don't worry about it as much, right? Because they're like, wait a second, I have a say in these things. You know what I mean? Like, let's figure this out. And that's what I was trying to do with this article. So here's a couple articles. This is from The Verge. And this is a good article. And they're basically saying like, this Cambridge Analytica stuff wasn't that powerful. It wasn't even that effective, So I can put these links. I'll put all these links down here. Here's another one, NBC News, which is pretty rare that they're going to have something good on tech. Who wrote it? Jonathan Allen and Jason Abruzzese. I don't know who those guys are, but either way, it's a pretty sharp article, basically talking about the pluses and minuses of the campaign that they ran. The thing is here's a great article here. Antonio Martinez, who wrote that book I just recommended, by the way. What they're doing is bullshit, basically. It's been tried before. There's no reason to think it's particularly powerful. So the whole thing is a total scam. And interesting thing is this Alexander Nix in this picture here. This guy here when we had the MGTOW World Conference in Thailand back a few months ago, I mentioned in all the videos when I was talking about it that there was a affiliate marketing convention that was the week before. So that if you're in internet marketing or you're working online or you want to make money online, you should probably go to that other conference first before the Ronin Man conference. And some people did actually. And the interesting thing was this Alexander Nix was actually at the conference, and my friends met him. And the guy's not particularly techie or not particularly sharp, and not I'm sure he's pretty smart. I mean, obviously he's pretty smart. He's done okay, but I mean, he's not controlling your dreams. Okay, he's not. You know what I mean? Like, you're not walking out in the street, taking off your clothes, whipping out your penis because you listen to his video or something. This guy's not, controlling the banking system. I mean, he's just another guy. My friends met him at the conference. Totally normal dude, trying to drum up business. That's basically what they were doing. They're trying to drum up business. And one of the things that really got me, I thought was really funny, tells you how stupid journalists are these days, is this guy here, this SJW, who supposedly leaked all this information. He talks about how they fooled Steve Bannon, is what he says. So now, Cambridge Analytica was an analytics company, and they weren't based in Cambridge. But what they did was they opened like some kind of office on the campus of Cambridge. And then Steve Bannon came, and then they made all their employees come to this branch for the day so that Steve Bannon could think they were somehow affiliated with Cambridge or something, right? And so what he's basically saying is like, Steve Bannon's a complete idiot, but this is not, this is total, basically like half this video is just total hogwash. I mean, anybody with a small company, okay, look, is anybody out there who's got a small company? What do you do when you're making a sales pitch? Okay, what do? You try to make yourself look as good as possible. I've done this kind of stuff a million times. You try to make your company, you'll bring in more people to the meeting to make it look like you have more guys working for you. You'll go to like a nicer place to do it. I mean, if you take a profile picture, even like something as simple as your Facebook profile, you're not going to take like a standard picture where you look like shit, right? Girls put on tons of makeup. They take 500 million pictures, and guys do too. Guys want to get the right picture, for their Facebook profile or their LinkedIn profile to make themselves look as good as possible. That's all they did for Steve Bannon. Is they went to this Cambridge and had a meeting. That's not fucking his mind. That doesn't show that he's a fool. He didn't do anything. He just used their services. Like, it's like, come on, like it's a ridiculous notion that this somehow bent his mind. The whole thing is bullshit. I mean, anybody with any business experience, like, each thing that they're saying is like, if you dig into it, it just doesn't make any sense. It's not true. And this kid here doesn't know anything about business. So naturally he thinks that what they did was some kind of psych op or something, right? Having a meeting in a fucking nice office that isn't really your office is fucking not a big deal. In China, when you go to see a factory, sometimes they'll even put a fake factory name. This actually happened to me once. I took a bunch of clients to a factory in China. We looked at the business. And then when we left, they changed the name of the business. They actually had a sign they put in front of the other sign outside the factory. And it was a way of kind of making themselves look bigger. This kind of stuff is normal in business. I mean, what the Chinese did was pretty cheesy, but you always try to like put a good face on. That's all they did, right? So that was that. But again, it's just like one more thing is like they're trying to make it look like you're being controlled and Facebook needs to be stopped and this, like the world's coming to an end. And like Trump is controlling your mind. Trump won the election through these ads. The ads weren't even that successful. They were old school. They weren't even like cutting edge. And they were, but now politicians are generally idiots. So what they did was actually fairly advanced for a politician, right? But if you go to ClickBank, if you go to any, like, let's say you go to online marketplace, go to clickbank.com and look at all the digital products there. In affiliates or people that are selling for other people, that's what an affiliate is. So you have a book and I help you sell the book. I'm an affiliate. Okay. The affiliates that sell products in competitive marketplaces are 100 steps ahead and 100 times more sophisticated than what Trump did. And I suppose in the next election, whoever is in it, they're going to be using more sophisticated techniques. But I just want to say that, just like that idea that I told you, the fantasy of the survivalist, I told that fantasy to my friend who's a survivalist, and he started smiling. He's like, yeah. He's like, that's it, man. He's like, that's the fantasy, right? And so I was like, this isn't like fucking your mind up, or I'm not controlling your mind. He's like, no, this is his fantasy. So, when you write somebody's deepest fears, or when you write somebody's biggest dreams, and that they can't even like verbalize themselves, it's almost like a compliment to them. It's like you thought about them so much that you wrote this, Like my friend was like, oh yeah, that's exactly how I feel. I want some motherfucker to beg me to fucking give him food, and I'm going to flip him off and not give him any food. That was his dream. That doesn't, it's the idea that this is controlling his mind is bullshit, because you can only study someone and then write a scenario that you think would be attractive for them, right? You don't have any ability to change other people. You can try to give them a different perspective that will have them purchase or buy something or vote, but there's no secret way to do this shit. It's hard. Fucking sales is hard, you guys. Sales and negotiation and influence is very difficult, and that's why the smartest guys do well in it. But most people fail, right? So it's just crazy. This kind of fear of people controlling your mind is such bullshit. I'm so tired of it. So here's a last thing here on the Bloomberg TV. We actually have the guy that I was talking about. What is his name? Antonio. What's his name here? Antonio Martinez. And he's here. He's being interviewed by Bloomberg, and I'll put all these links below this time because these are important links if you want to like look at this thing. And basically Alexander Nix, the guy that my friends met, we did all the data, we're awesome, we did it all. It wasn't Facebook, and they did. But the thing is, it wasn't all that effective. But it was for government work. It was reasonably sophisticated project, right? So there we go. That's basically what we have there. And it's just basically like, it's a total fucking joke, you guys. The reason why I made this episode is because I thought you might find it interesting. It's interesting, right? It's fucking interesting, okay? To learn shit like this is interesting. But I think it's, a lot of people I'm reading these days, what they do when they come across something, okay, like fake news or something, what they do is they run away. So they say, I'm not going to read the news anymore because it ruins my day. It messes with my mind. But I don't recommend that. I recommend you guys is to rise to the challenge of life. And when you see something like this, is to not be a fool where you get like float away and get sucked into the latest meme. Is to think and to use your brain. Do the hard work of thinking about things and analyzing, like I did in this podcast, and your brain is like a muscle. So the more you use it, and the more that you're not afraid of this fake information. You're not afraid of, everybody online talking about one thing and then you disagreeing because you figured out that it's bullshit. This is basically what I feel like I did with this episode, with the help of some very good friends and also with that Martinez guy. But you want to be smart. You want to be intelligent. You want to be better at figuring things out. Don't run away. Run towards. And then the last thing I want to say is my friends that helped me to prepare for this are very fucking smart. And that's what you want to have. You want to have smart friends so that whatever the challenge in life is that you're not one of these guys who dyes his hair purple and, runs away from everything. You're like, wait a second. Everybody's talking about this right now. There's a meme. Everybody believes this. Is this fucking true? You know what I mean? Like, let's analyze it. And maybe you won't know because maybe it'll be something you're not familiar with, a profession you're not familiar with. But you can always, if you've done the hard work of having the smart friends and the good friends, then you can contact them and say, hey, guys, like, I saw this online. What's your take on it? And you will be able to, you'll be able to be the one person in your friends group who won't be sucked into the story of the day. And I can tell you this, when this story first came out, I was sucked into it myself, say 6 hours ago, when I was thinking about this episode. It took me 6 hours to get ready for this. So I was like, kind of like, oh my gosh, these guys are controlling our minds. Like I was watching it too, right? I'm a human being too, right? But then I started to analyze it. I said, wait a second. I can't control people's minds. How can these guys control my mind? You know what I mean? Like, so I started like, oh, wait a second. This, all of a sudden, everybody can control everybody's mind. If that was so easy, then I would do it too, right? Just start a business controlling people's minds. It'd be great business, right? It's not easy, right? If I can't do that, wait a second. Let me start to analyze this. Then I started to talk to friends and analyze and read. And then 6 hours later, I got this whole thing figured out, and it's just a joke. It's a total joke. They're using standard marketing techniques. They're scraping data. They're writing content. And I want to say also, and this is very clear to me, is that both sides of the political fence are using these techniques. Anything that works, everybody uses. Same with affiliate marketers. If you look on ClickBank, the affiliates are all doing the same thing. They're buying lists, they're cleaning lists, they're writing content, they're doing all the same things. Politicians, it's all the same. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat. In the end, this is sales. They're doing sales on you, and they're trying to get you to vote for their guy, right? So any good technique that's one guy figures out, the other team will use it. Sometimes it's the next. Sometimes it will take a whole, new. So like one election, and then the next election, the other guys will figure it out. But eventually, everybody figures everything out, and they all use it. These aren't like using Facebook data, or using people's profiles, psychographics is not invention of Donald Trump. Okay, this is standard, old school. I've been doing this stuff for years. It's standard stuff, and it's so old I don't even do it anymore because it doesn't even work anymore. Especially in a competitive niche, you got to go way, way more high tech than this. But in the political niche, it can definitely still work. And so you'll see less sophisticated countries with less sophisticated elections will be using these techniques that we're talking about now, psychographic profiles. They'll in Facebook data, they're going to be using these in the 8 years from now because they're behind the times, right? So it trickles down. Somebody figures it out. It's not. None of this stuff is political. It's just techniques to get in front of people and to try to influence them. And like I said, like my friend was complimented when I figured out his fantasy. So don't be afraid of someone trying to figure you out. Like I appreciate when people study me, like they try to figure me out. Sometimes I learn something. Sometimes I actually go, wow, that guy's right. Or sometimes I'll figure out what they're thinking about me, like an advertisement. I'll say, well, what does this really mean? He's thinking this, and then I'll realize that's stupid. Like he thinks I'm stupid. I'll think, God, I am kind of stupid. Like why am I fucking thinking this stupid fantasy? This is stupid, And then it'll kind of help me wake up, So don't be afraid of someone trying to figure you out. And I want to say last thing I want to say is that business is divided. If you're a business owner, you know this. But most people don't know this, and most college students have no idea. But business is divided into people that make money and people that cost money. Okay? It's not always exactly this clear, but I just want to give you this model so you can generally think this way. So if you join, let's say, my company, and you can go out there, make sales, and bring in revenue, right? I'm going to consider you a money maker. Now, somebody else comes to me and says, look, I'm going to help do this service for you, help you do this, and make your life better. That's a cost. Okay, now maybe what they're doing is like very valuable, but it doesn't bring in revenue. Okay, so if you want a good future in business, always think in these black and white terms when it comes to money. Is it, am I a cost or am I a revenue generator? And if you're not a revenue generator, think of ways that you can be more of a revenue generator so that you can be the guy when you meet the business people, you're like, hey, I can bring in money for your business. You don't have to even hire me. I can go out and do it. I'll show you right now. I'll bring in a new client. Here's the client. Here's the deal. And the business owner's like, holy moly, here's your desk, sir, because you brought in money. You're not trying to take. Don't be a taker, be a giver. And a lot of these techniques we're talking about here, sales, marketing, advertising, copywriting, influence, these are things that make money. Smart people get in this kind of business and they make money for people. They make money for themselves and for other people, and they're very welcome in business, So be a creator and a money maker instead of a taker. That's my final advice. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope that was interesting. If you're kind of new to internet marketing, you might have thought it was a little bit complicated. Feel free to ask questions. I think it's quite interesting. It's an interesting topic. It's interesting when the masses of idiots kind of gets awoken to something that's already been going on for 30 years. That's always interesting for me, because what all these techniques that they're using were direct mail, direct marketing. There's a guy named Dan Kennedy who teaches direct marketing, and he was back I don't know how he's been doing 35 years. He teaches all these techniques. The guy's actually very good. I like Dan Kennedy a lot. I've watched all his products. Huge fan of Dan Kennedy. And, this stuff has been going for 30 years, way before the internet. People were doing these exact techniques using mail, and also television, any kind of TV shopping, anything they're selling something online that they're good at selling, they're using these techniques. Idiots, image marketing guys, those guys are not using these techniques because they're fucking idiots. But people that know how to make money are using these techniques. And so now the average joker is starting to understand that someone might be trying to influence his behavior. What a fucking shock that is. I can't believe it. And it's just dishonest people, because every day we need to influence people. Like I said, one of the things you want to do is if you have a friend or a child, you want to talk to them, you want to influence them so they don't run into the street and get run over. That's influence, right? You want to be good at influencing people so that you can use it when you need to use it. It's not a dirty word. Influence is it can help your friends to pick better careers. You can use it for so many good things. You can influence your friends to eat better food, to study more, to read more, to detach from the matrix. You can influence people. I'm trying to influence you right now to be a thinker, to use your brain, to don't be swept away by the memes of modern life, to be a fucking smart guy. I'm trying to influence you right now to do that. That's the only thing I'm trying to do. It's not, it's nothing wrong with that. Trying to help people is not fucking nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? So use your influence for good and also make money, pay the bills, and your life will be better, and your friends' lives will be better, and your family's lives will be better. So thanks, guys, for listening, and Ronin Man signing off. This whole Cambridge thing, I'm going to watch it. It's like watching it's like Larry, Moe, and Curly, the Three Stooges, watching people see these things that have been going on for all these years, and their shock and horror. Oh my God, somebody knows my birthday. Oh no, somebody knows that I like, Chipotle burritos. No, they're going to control my mind. No. Somebody knows I like the color blue. Oh, no. What a joke, man. Oh, dude, don't worry, guys. Life is good and it's getting better. Don't let this, just watch the idiots like a circus or whatever, So Ronin Man signing off. Have a good one.